Today, I want to talk about a Reiki connection with mediumship because I've noticed one. I've spoken to a lot of mediums who've never thought about this, and I've spoken to a few who have thought about it and disagree, but that hasn't been my experience. So a few years ago, I was certified for just level 1 basic beginner Reiki healing. And then a couple of years later, I started engaging in mediumship. And my husband really badly injured his knee, and we weren't sure if we should go to urgent care or not. So we were waiting most of a day, and during most of that day, I was doing Reiki on his knee, on and off, all day long. And then my next day and a half of mediumship readings were amazing. And I thought, well, that's probably not coincidence. Like, what's going on there? So just as a way of exploring that, and because I felt like it, I went back to the same place where I'd been certified for Reiki, and I did level 2. And so in that class, it was a day-long class, and all day long, on and off, we were doing different Reiki practices. And at the end of the day, when it came time for the attunement, I sat down in front of this Reiki master. I had my eyes closed, and the moment I closed my eyes, vividly, there was a very close friend of mine who had passed just right there. And I was taken aback. My head jerked back a little bit. And in my head, I said, "This is Reiki and not mediumship. What are you doing here?" And he went like that and gestured behind me. And I turned and looked, and behind me were my parents, my grandparents, a bunch of relatives, several friends, all of whom had passed, all of them more vivid than I have ever experienced them before or since as a medium. Vividly there. It was, I got choked up. It was wonderful to perceive them all so clearly. So in my experience, there's definitely a connection between the two, Reiki and mediumship. So I've talked to some friends who are mediums about this, just to bounce ideas off of them. And one of them made a very astute observation, because I was thinking about the mechanics of how that would work. And she said, well, Reiki heals the body, and mediumship heals the soul, or at least heals our feelings, or it can, right? And I thought, oh, that's a really good point. Haven't thought of it that way. And so there's that connection, that obvious connection. But also, when I do Reiki, I am passing through energy from myself to the recipient like a conduit. I feel like they're sucking it through me like a straw, like I'm the straw. And mediumship is passing through feelings or information or energy from somewhere else. And that Reiki pass through that I do is from somewhere else. I don't really define where, but it does feel, when I'm doing Reiki, it feels like it's coming from way above me and kind of flowing through me. And when I first started to do mediumship, I do remember that it felt like the information was falling on me from way above me. So there's that, just sort of trying to think about the mechanics of both things. I have friends who are Reiki masters or massage therapists who are a little bit or a lot interested in mediumship. They're either amateur mediums or they also are mediums, full-on mediums. And they have said when they're working on a client, either doing Reiki or giving them a massage, they'll start to feel connections. And they're never sure what to do about that. They decide on a case-by-case basis because the client is not there for mediumship. And so they've just decided in each instance on its own whether or not to say anything. And that's, their business. And I also noticed that where I learned to do Reiki, they send out you can email a list there requesting it for yourself. And all the rest of us get that request. So I have felt the difference when I've put in a request. I just had surgery. I put in a request to that Reiki list. And so I saw my own request on that list. We all get that. And I've also noticed that when I regularly provide Reiki to people requesting it on that list, my mediumship readings go better. And it's almost a one-to-one correlation. If I see a Reiki request and I do it that day, and then I have a mediumship reading later in the same day, it does seem like those readings go a little bit better or a little bit easier. So for me, in my experience, there is a connection or a similarity or something between the two that goes hand in hand. If you are a medium, I'd be very interested in your comments on this topic. Next week, I'm going to talk about life scripts because I hear that term bandied around a lot. I have my own personal beliefs and opinions about life scripts, and I'm going to share that. And until then, thank you for tuning in this time, and see you next week.